Yeah, it's cooked, guys. It's cooked. The WNBA is officially cooked, man. Sophie Cunningham will probably be going to Project B as well. I can already see the writing on the wall, and these WNBA players.
Okay.
Sophie Cunningham just basically confirmed what everyone's been whispering about for weeks. But here's what blows my mind. This isn't just about one player chasing a bigger paycheck. What she reveals next completely exposes the WNBA's biggest nightmare. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say this could trigger a full league lockout. You gotta understand something most people are missing right now. The WNBA isn't just negotiating about money in these CBA talks. They're trying to force something way more controversial. We're talking about sensitivity clauses that would literally ban players from Project B entirely. Think about that for a second. We're talking 7- and 8-figure deals that players would have to turn down just to stay in the WNBA, and Sophie just made it crystal clear where she stands. But hold up, because what she says in this next interview reveals exactly why the league is panicking right now.
Annie Costabel had an interview with one Sophie Cunningham, and she asked her about Project B and some things about the Indiana Fever and things of that nature. And it's very interesting and very telling, some of the things that Caitlin Clark had to say. I said Caitlin Clark. Sophie Cunningham had to say. And
Did you catch that? Seriously.
Why would you not? That single question is about to shatter everything the WNBA has been building. And here's the kicker. Sophie's not some role player making league minimum. She's a core piece of the Indiana Fever, the team that just had the most watched WNBA season in history because of Caitlin Clark. If Sophie walks away for Project B money, you better believe the dominoes are going to start falling fast. But there's something even more explosive happening behind the scenes that nobody's talking about. The last time WNBA leadership met with the Players Association, 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, Project B is out here making multi-million-dollar offers daily, and the WNBA is moving at a snail's pace. You know what that tells me? They're scrambling. They thought they had leverage. But get this, watch what Sophie reveals about the actual state of these negotiations.
Sophie Cunningham made it clear that when it comes to CBA negotiations, things are not progressing at a pace that seems particularly helpful or even appropriate. She noted that her understanding is the last time the WNBA leaders and the WNBPA met was 2 weeks ago, and said, I know our execs are talking with their people every single day. I don't think there's been much movement. I think at least there's communication. So that's the biggest thing for us. But normally we don't have meetings unless something big is happening or if they need to update us on what they're talking about.
I don't think there's been much movement. That's diplomat speak for we're getting nowhere, and fast. And get this, Sophie's not the only one feeling this way. Players across the league are watching these negotiations drag on while Project B is literally writing checks right now. A psychological warfare here is insane. Every day the WNBA delays, Project B looks more attractive. Every week without a deal, more players start questioning their loyalty. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Sophie just admitted something in an interview that completely contradicts what WNBA executives have been saying publicly. The league keeps claiming they're close to a breakthrough, but listen closely to how Sophie actually describes what's happening.
Sophie Cunningham doesn't see a problem with Project B. Cunningham also spoke about Project B in the latest professional women's basketball league that's been announced. Not too many details are available yet about the league, but it was hashed out by a group of investors who initially hoped to create a rival to the NBA. When that didn't work, they turned their attention to the W and women's basketball. For Cunningham, the appeal of the new league is financial. We know Sophie's about the bag. She want her bread. Project B is reportedly offering some players $2 to $3 million salaries to participate in the league from November to April. That's not a short season, though. She said, I don't know much about it. You know, you see stuff on social media, but I know how social media goes. So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But, you know, if people are going to be paying you multi-million dollars deals, why would you not?
Sophie Cunningham just basically confirmed what everyone's been whispering about for weeks. But here's what blows my mind. This isn't just about one player chasing a bigger paycheck. What she reveals next completely exposes the WNBA's biggest nightmare. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say this could trigger a full league lockout. You gotta understand something most people are missing right now. The WNBA isn't just negotiating about money in these CBA talks. They're trying to force something way more controversial. We're talking about sensitivity clauses that would literally ban players from Project B entirely. Think about that for a second. We're talking 7- and 8-figure deals that players would have to turn down just to stay in the WNBA, and Sophie just made it crystal clear where she stands. But hold up, because what she says in this next interview reveals exactly why the league is panicking right now.
Listen, I've been very clear. If Project B called KTV on the way to Project B. It is what it is. It is what it is. And she's been very clear about where she stands in all of this, and that she's trying to get paid. It's the business. My whole thing is there are some social warriors and advocate warriors who going to Project B has been a complete contradiction of all the things they've been trying to push for in WNBA and all this other stuff. I wish they would have just said, hey, man, we just want to get paid more, and they could stop all of this other foolishness that they've been doing, and just say, hey, it's strictly about the bread. We could respect and understand if it's strictly about the bread, but once y'all all try to be like this activist league and all this other stuff.
Okay,
this is the part that's been driving me absolutely crazy. For years, WNBA players have positioned themselves as this activist league, fighting for equality, fair pay, and worker rights. And you know what? I respect that fight, but now Project B shows up with actual money, not promises, not future revenue sharing, but real contracts. And suddenly all that activism takes a back seat. Sophie basically just said the quiet part out loud, strictly about the bread.
Sophie Cunningham addressed her future with the Fever. Cunningham also admitted that there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the WNBA's 2026 season, which makes it more difficult to know if she can plan to be on the Indiana Fever next year. Like most of the league, Cunningham will be a free agent, and her spot on the team is not guaranteed. There's a lot of uncertainty, like you said, with the CBA, with the money, if we're even going to have a league next year, and then people want to come back. We're trying to keep our core together. The Fever battled through several season-ending injuries, including Cunningham's own. Yeah, this was a season from hell for the Indiana in terms of injuries, man. And put in a strong performance during the WNBA playoffs this season.
there's a lot of
uncertainty if we're even going to have a league next year. Let that sink in. Sophie Cunningham, a key player on the most popular team in WNBA history, isn't even sure the league will exist next year. And that's not speculation anymore. That's a player with inside knowledge basically confirming what we've all been thinking. The WNBA is on the brink. And here's what makes this situation absolutely explosive. Sophie wants to stay with Indiana. She wants to play alongside Caitlin Clark. She wants to compete for championship.
You need to bring back Caitlin Clark, obviously the GOAT. It's her team. You re-sign Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hall. That's our core four, period. That's the core four, the original core four from Caitlin Clark's rookie season. Caitlin, Kelsey, Lexi, Aaliyah. Then after that, you bring back Sophie Cunningham and you bring back Michaela Timpson, and we go from there. I'm open to Ari McDonald coming off the bench. She does not have to. She doesn't have to be here, but I'm open to her coming off the bench. I'm open to a Chloe Bibby return. Those are some things I'm open to, but they don't have to happen. They don't have to be here.
Here, when Sophie talks about bringing back the core, notice what she's really saying. She wants Caitlin, Kelsey, Lexi, Aaliyah, and herself back together. That's the foundation of a championship team. But every single one of those players is either a free agent or will be soon. Every single one of them is getting calls from Project B, and every single one of them is doing the same math Sophie's doing right now. You know what's crazy? The WNBA created this problem themselves. They had years to figure out competitive salaries. They had multiple opportunities to structure deals that would keep players happy. Instead, they got comfortable. They assumed loyalty would trump money. They thought players would sacrifice for the greater good of the league. And now, They're shocked that Sophie Cunningham is openly talking about multi-million-dollar offers from a competitor. This isn't just a negotiation anymore, it's a full-blown crisis. But the real breaking point comes when you understand what Project B is actually offering.
We know Sophie's about the bag. She want her bread. Project B is reportedly offering some players $2 to $3 million salaries to participate in the league from November to April. That's not a short season, though. She said, I don't know much about it. You know, you see stuff on social media, but I know how social media goes, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But, you know, if people are going to be paying you multi-million dollars deals, why would you not?
$2 to $3 million from November to April. That's not just more money than the WNBA offers. That's life-changing wealth for players who've been grinding for six-figure salaries their entire careers. And get this, Project B's season runs November to April, which means it directly conflicts with the WNBA's May to September schedule. This isn't a complimentary league like Unrivaled. This is direct competition. The WNBA can't have both. Either they let players participate in Project B and lose control of their own schedule, or they demand exclusivity and watch their stars walk away for bigger paychecks. There's no middle ground here. And Sophie just confirmed she's choosing the money, but here's what's absolutely wild about the timing of all this. The WNBA just had their most successful season ever. Caitlin Clark brought millions of new fans, ratings exploded, attendance shattered records. This should be the moment when the league capitalizes on that momentum and locks down their stars with competitive deals. Instead, they're fumbling the bag so badly that players are openly discussing whether the league will even exist next year. The incompetence is staggering, and it gets worse when you realize what this means for the Fever specifically.
If you dig what I'm saying. So, with all this said, man, Sophie Cunningham looks like she will be going to Project B if they come calling. She's not turning a multi-million-dollar deal down for nothing, even if it means she can't play in the WNBA. She's gonna go get the bag. And respectfully, I understand. I'm not gonna sit here and make it seem like, oh, they shouldn't be going up. Listen, man. Everybody could say you shouldn't go until you got multi-million-dollar offers in your face. And if they want to go get their bread, I'm not going to knock them for going to get their bread. I would love to see Sophie Cunningham back with this Indiana Fever team, though. So get down in the comments. Let me know what you think about this. This keep the vision.
Sophie's not.
She said, I'm not knocking anyone for chasing their money. And that's the most important thing she said in this entire interview because it reveals the mindset shift that's happening across the league right now. Players aren't viewing Project B as betrayal anymore. They're viewing it as a legitimate business opportunity. And once that mental barrier breaks, the WNBA is cooked. You can't guilt players into staying when the financial gap is this massive. You can't appeal to loyalty when you're asking them to leave millions on the table. The WNBA needed to act 6 months ago. They needed to get ahead of this. Instead, they're reacting, and in negotiations, whoever's reacting is losing. But the absolute craziest part of this entire situation is what it means for Caitlin Clark. Because if Sophie leaves for Project B, if Kelsey Mitchell follows, if the Fever core gets dismantled, where does that leave the player who just carried the entire league on her back? Does Caitlin stay in a WNBA that's falling apart? Or does she eventually follow the money too? And if Caitlin Clark leaves for Project B, the WNBA doesn't just lose a star, they lose their entire future. That's the nightmare scenario executives are waking up to every single day right now. So here's the bottom line. Sophie Cunningham just confirmed what we've all been thinking. The WNBA is in serious trouble. Project B isn't just competition, it's an existential threat. And unless the league figures out how to compete financially and fast, we're looking at a full-blown player exodus. The question isn't whether Sophie's leaving anymore. The question is who follows her and whether the WNBA can survive what comes next. Drop your thoughts below. Does the league make it to 2026, or is this the beginning of the end?